Greetings and welcome to the Ripple Effect. I am Selena. Merry Christmas. I didn't think I was going to be able to put up a video today on Christmas Eve, but here I am. So today's topic, I was trying to choose between which topic I wanted to talk about, but I mentioned in another video about being in a relationship with a man who is not kingdom or who is not godly. And I had noticed in my neighborhood there's a guy who stays with his wife and they have two kids, and he's also having conversations, with someone who stays directly across from where he stays with another woman, and how sneaky and just ungodly that particular man is, and the woman who he's messing around with, who allows it, because she sees that he stays with his wife and his kids. Nonetheless, so the other day I was in my car minding my business. Me and my son, we were getting ready to leave to go somewhere, and so we're just sitting in the car and we're conversing, and we notice the guy with his wife who he stays with. She comes home, and as she's coming home, she's parking her car, and before she can get out the vehicle, okay, he comes out and tries to, yoke her up by her clothing. So she swings back, and I think, oh my goodness, we're just getting ready to witness assault and battery. And then, so he's cussing her out and saying all these things, and they're going back and forth or whatever. So they go within their house, behind closed doors. Who knows what the children they have are witnessing. So the topic I want to discuss is just about being careful about the relationships that you involve yourself in. And I know in the beginning, I always talk about the enemy doesn't come in and kick in the door and be like, boom, you get ready to be in a toxic relationship. You're going to be with someone who's going to abuse you. You're going to be involved in something that's going to steal, kill, and destroy you. And I was talking with my son about in the beginning how they first met. It couldn't have always been like that. And if it was like that from the beginning, my goodness, does she need help? And I feel so bad for the children. The children that they have look really young, maybe like 4 and 5, at least under 6, and they're 2 boys. And the example that they're getting from their father is highly toxic and not acceptable. And the woman who, I didn't hear any cop cars, I didn't see the police or the paramedics, or who's the people that come for dead folks? I can't even think of them. Anyway, just saying that I didn't see it escalate to that, and which I'm grateful for, but in a sense that means that that's the norm, because if it was something so unexpected out the blue, I would think that the police would have been notified, he or she would have been arrested for assault and battery or domestic violence, but no. And we're right around Christmas time, and I thought it's the season of giving, but not the season of giving black eyes. I mean, I just was astonished that this is the relationship that some people are in, and I'm saddened for my sisters who are involved in relationship like this. And I don't mean sisters to delineate color or ethnic background, just women in general, because we have to learn how to do better when we're in a relationship, okay? And you may seem and think that, okay, it's about me, it's about what I want, and sort of, kind of, but when you have children, their mental state, their health supersedes that of your own. In the sense that, yes, you should be healthy when you have children. You should put your mental health first so you can be the best mother that you can. Nonetheless, when you are involving yourself with a person who will put their hands on you in public, because I wasn't the only neighbor who was outside and who was appalled by it, but the fact that he was seemingly waiting, because by the time she could barely get out her car, he was running outside to come yoke her up. So I don't know what happened beforehand or what have you, but the fact that this is the example that her young children or their young children are going to see and perceive it as to be the norm. And it's just something that we as women, we have a responsibility to our children, because as I mentioned before, we're the ones who carry them. Okay, God, I didn't make this rule. Okay, God sits us down for almost a year while we're incubating that child within our womb. And so it's not the same. Men are able to participate for a little while, and then we are the ones who have to take care of our bodies and our mental health while the child is in us. And then once we birth the children, it's still our responsibility to make sure that our children have the best example possible. I'm a high advocate for, I'd rather have my son have no example than a bad example, because he will grow up thinking this is the norm. And when I was in that highly toxic marriage, I would speak to my son often and explain to him, this is not the norm. This is not how it's supposed to be. This is what I may have done that's incorrectly. This is what he has done that is incorrect. And let him know, okay, this is not what love looks like. This is not what godly covenant love looks like. So to prepare him, and so that he was old enough to understand, he wasn't a child when I got married, so that he would be able to understand that this is not healthy. And these two little boys that's out here, and when I see them, they're so little, and yet they be mean mugging hard. They got little toy guns that they be holding in such an aggressive manner at such a young age. And the turmoil and the anger that must be inside of them as children, because they're seeing their mother get abused, and at the hands of their father, which I perceive is their father. Okay, I haven't run a DNA test, but I'm just saying, the man that's representing that he is a role model, the example in their home, this is what they're seeing. And so I'm encouraging you ladies, especially single mothers, one, be careful who you expose your children to, especially when they're not the biological father. There are several children, and adults even, who are suffering the wounds of abuse at the hands of a man who is not their father. And sometimes women are so selfish. I hate to say that word, but not really, because it's the truth anyhow. You are so selfish because you want somebody in your bed, but you don't care about the mental health of your children. And we need to be able to sacrifice ourselves. Sometimes it's not going to be easy. Yes, sometimes you're going to be lonely. Yes, sometimes you may have someone to be a companion with. But when it's at the state of your children, why risk it? Why be able to see that it's wrong? Because there are some people who may say, hey, I didn't necessarily know that it's wrong. I didn't really understand because there are many levels to abuse before it gets physical. That's typically the last before it gets deadly. And the fact that this appears to have been their norm, and I could, just because the fact that he's willing to sleep with someone who's in the same neighborhood and live with his wife and his kids, I knew he wasn't far away from putting his hands on one, because he has no morals. He has no respect for himself, yet alone the women that he has procreated with, nor his children. Because if that's the example, that he would go right next door and have his dirty laundry right here in this little bitty neighborhood, and then not care that he'd be outside cussing her out, putting his hands on her. It's just so disrespectful. I'm so appalled by it, because I was looking for her brothers to show up, or some cousins or uncles, so he could understand, if you want to put your hands on a woman, let's see how those fists rock with grown men. Because I just don't understand it. And like I said, when I was in my toxic relationship, my toxic marriage, by the grace of God, probably the prayers that had to be out there, he never put his hands on me. But we were so close to that being the case. But I knew, I told him, like, look, if you ever in your life put your hands on me, you better make sure you knock me out unconscious and I can't get up. Because somebody else is going to be crying over a gravesite. Because that's what it is. Because I refuse. Would I look like getting hit on by a man? And I feel sorry for the ladies who are involved in that type of situation, because sometimes it escalates so smoothly you don't even realize, and before you know it, you're getting beat on outside of everything else. And so I encourage you, once, if you are in that type of relationship, to pray as to how to move out of it, because it's not easy. And anybody who says it's easy, just up, move, take your children, move out, they are liars. And that is not true, because sometimes you have to move in silence and make steps. Hopefully you have a community, someone who is supporting you, that you are able to move out of that toxic relationship where nobody loses their lives. There are several women, several ladies who are not able to tell their story because they waited too long to leave. And so I'm encouraging you, ladies, single mother, when you're involved in relationships, and we see from the beginning, and this I was gonna say movie, this video is getting long, but I'm gonna say, like, in the beginning, there are signs. If he's already cussing you out, yelling at you, all in your face, disrespectful, and if he's disrespectful to your children, that is a huge red flag, because some women will be with a man who is not the children's biological father and let him disrespect, put his hands on their children, and still stay. And that, I'm just saying, that wasn't the case in my household, because if he ever touched my son, let me not go down that road, because I am redeemed and the Lord has brought me out of that relationship. So I praise the Lord that I have a testimony to say that I'm out of that relationship, that by God's grace we did not experience physical violence, but I knew if I stayed any longer, me and my son probably would have been subjected to domestic violence at physical lengths, because there was emotional abuse there, social abuse, financial abuse, any other abuse but putting his hands on me, because he was a highly toxic individual. And I'm so grateful that God allowed me, one, to have a testimony, because I didn't always want to have a testimony, because you got to talk about what happened. You got to say, well, I survived, but really I'm grateful that I did, because it could have ended so much differently for myself and my son. So I'm encouraging you, ladies, like, to, when you really get involved in a relationship, like, seek this man out. Do a criminal background check if you have to. Some of them are free, but if you want that in-depth, it don't cost a lot of money. Invest. But do a criminal background check in your state and all the other states as well. Don't just necessarily take a man's word up front for the gospel truth. And trust your instinct. God has given women an intuition. Trust it. Especially when you're in your prayer closet, trust what's right. But if you're out there boozing and smoking and getting high, your intuition is going to be a bit skewed. I'm going to just go ahead and let you know. It's not going to have that same level of clarity that you would have when you're in your prayer closet and you're sober. But if you're smoking and drinking, and the man you're with is smoking and drinking, your clarity is going to be not as clear as it should be. It's going to be a bit murky. But in the beginning, when you have the opportunity, before the relationship even gets to that point of, and I apologize for the alarm that you're hearing, somebody's car in my neighborhood, it goes off often. But anyway, I encourage you to invest in the beginning to see this man for himself. Don't just trust the words that come out of his mouth. Watch him. Watch him. I have learned through life's ups and downs, trials and tribulations, I watch people with, I listen to people with my eyes. And so you have to be able to take the time. Don't just rush in a relationship. Don't just jump into it. Don't just, as people say, they fall into love. Why would you fall? That means when you fall in real life, you can stumble and hurt yourself. There are plenty of people who have broken their legs because they've fallen. So why would you want to fall into anything? Why walk into love? Take your time. There is no hurry. Some people feel like, oh, I'm on, my biological clock is ticking, or I'm in a hurry. There are some things that I want to accomplish. Take your time. It's better to take your time now than to be crying later. So that's it, ladies. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to join the OAC Nation. Become an overcomer and confident. Check out my new website, calmforsinglemoms.com. And thank you so much for watching.